Authenticity to me is giving yourself the ability and permission to be you, which means to feel everything. And what I mean by be you and feel everything, because I think it's easy to focus on being authentic, especially like when we're talking about personal development or men's space. We say be authentic and show like the softer side, or show the emotional side, or show the messy side, right? Equally as important is being able to allow yourself to be authentic in your joy and in your bliss.
All right, Mr. Brian Christian Jenkins, how's it going, brother?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Just glad to be here with you. I'm right now, I think I'm 6 hours in the future for you.
6 hours in the future, man. The future is looking good.
Yeah, appreciate you.
Yeah, it's bright and early over here in California. You're calling from Spain, yeah?
Yeah, Gran Canaria, Spain. So essentially the day is half done for us. I've been up for hours.
Beautiful. Isn't it like siesta time or something for y'all over there?
It is. So this is why I'm looking like I'm digging deep to pull some energy to be here with you, be full and present, because this is my slow down time before I crank it back up.
Yes, man. Well, I'm really, really grateful that you're here today. I was really looking forward to this conversation for a bit. So glad we're going to get to dive in. As I was telling you before we hit record, you are a man I could talk to forever. Very well-rounded human being. But let's start off, just introduce yourself a little bit. Let me know kind of the things that you're up to currently, and what life looks like for Brian Jenkins.
Oh man. All right. So you said compact this 3-hour monologue into 3 minutes. So, so what I'm up to right now is, as I said before, really being curious about life right now. All right. And I know it sounds very vague, but more specifically, that's like, me as an individual, as a man, as a husband, how I'm showing up in my marriage. It's showing up in my business as well, around the coaching practice, where I can be more curious and more expansive in that space as well. And trusting that curiosity, to be honest with you, which isn't always the easiest thing, especially when this is new, like this new way of moving in and out of life and in and out of my emotions, and or trying to avoid the pitfalls and the traps of the emotions that can pull me down. Learn to trust that, and actually getting comfortable in this new skin. Right. So specifically around like the professional side, like this is, this is a new space for me to be in, like when it works to speak around relationships. Before it was only doing men's work, let that evolve and transform. And when I was doing that, something just didn't feel quite complete. So open that space up to coaching, women as well. And then now couples, which is definitely new territory. Look, because I have like human babies, you think I'll have kids. That's my dog wanting my attention now. Like he wants it now.
Of course.
And I think that's all I'll say about that for the curiosity side. So I think right now I'm just very curious, very hyper curious, very radically curious stage in my life right now about what's possible for me on all fronts.
That's incredible, man. Curiosity is definitely, I call it a context or a way of being that I have intentionally tried to model more, because it's not something that was very natural to me at first. I guess for you, why is curiosity important, or how have you been able to practice and lean into it a bit more?
Oof, good question, bro. So for me, I'm typically someone who's been the creator, the doer. Let's make some shit happen. Let's get it done. All right. Mm-hmm. Let's set the objective, set the target, and we're going towards that pretty relentlessly. And most often than not, I'd get there. And that's not always been a bad thing. I think in a lot of ways that's actually served me very, very well. However, if there's also another side of that coin, which is with being so focused on an objective, I missed a lot of the journey. I suppressed a lot of spontaneity. And I was so focused on the end outcome of goals, especially as it pertained to me, that I was very resistant to what could have been possible for me if I had some curiosity about an emotion that came up, a feeling that came up, a calling or a pull in another direction, anything like that. I ignored it. I very aggressively and disrespectfully sometimes ignored that and said, no, the goal is here. We're going there. And so allowing for curiosity to come through about what could be possible, not that it has to be. So not that I'm so curious, I'm going all directions, but what could be possible has just been it's been a shift for me, a shift on all levels, but more of allowing the more authentic me to come through. So yeah, that's the place it's been in my life.
Can absolutely relate to that. I really like this idea of curiosity being journey focused as opposed to destination focused. And it doesn't mean that we have to throw out the destination, but it's just like this openness to the other possibilities. I think for me, what I realize is like when I am not curious, I am often focused on being right. So especially, I guess I'm naturally going to relationship right now because you planted the seed in working with couples. But I know for myself, with my wife, if I am not intentionally focused on being curious, that I am either trying to solve her problems or just wait for her to finish speaking so that I can then interject my solution, answer my rightness. Is that something that you see commonly in working with relationships or couples rather?
Yeah, I'll do you one better. That's exactly what's going on with me right now in my marriage. So yes, in relationship, let's just keep this 100 and say this is what I experience, And I agree. And right now, this is where that radical curiosity, when I'm using that tool, comes in because, again, just before we got on the call, literally an hour before, had a very deep come to Jesus meeting with my conversation with my wife, and remind myself to keep breathing and say, what's behind the words? What's behind the ask? What's behind the emotion? Because like you, I was approach these conversations very like strategically, very tactically, okay, she said this, I'm going to bookmark this, I'm going to pull this back in later on because I want to be right. Even though I wasn't thinking I want to be right, really, I wanted to get to a resolution where she said I was right, why I don't have to hear what she's saying and why she needs to understand what I'm saying. And yeah, that's great. Everyone wants to be heard, right? However, with using the tool, I even said the oldest technology there is a curiosity to say what is behind there that opens me up for more connection, like with my wife and with myself as well. Because really, although, yes, I want to understand what's happening with her, what I've been more curious about is, well, Brian, why is that upsetting you? Why are you resistant to hearing her? Why are you shutting down when she's giving you criticism? Or why are you shutting down when you see that she's a bit, emotional right now? What's happening with you? And that has been transforming for me and for her. So yeah, definitely I can resonate with that a lot.
Man, that you definitely opened the door for me as far as, there's curiosity when it's relative to what our partner is saying. Curious about, what's actually behind the words, curious about their concerns. But then looking back and the self-reflection of curiosity about why I'm having the reaction that I'm having to whatever it is they're saying. Why am I getting defensive about this? Why is this upsetting me? Why do I feel triggered or challenged or threatened by this? I think that is, those two levels of curiosity really allow for growth in relationship.
Yeah. And you're going back to what you're saying about, actually, so now the work. And this is what I do find like a lot of couples find the most challenging, and rightfully so, because I also still find it challenging, is being able to put your needs, your wants, your desires aside for a moment, and then be able just to listen just kind of take what's being thrown at you, take it for a second, put it to one side and listen to that person, assimilate it the best you can, understand how you can, best serve their needs, if that's even your position to do so, and then bring yours to the table. What happens is when we have these conversations, we both want to get it out, right? Which is fine. Both of you have the, I don't even say it's a right, but I'd even say like the need to both to share those things. But it's very rare that you're going to find that growth you're talking about when we're both trying to get it out there. If I can't sit there and be with what you're saying, actually understand it and try to see how that's affecting me, I'm not growing. We're just kind of repeating the same kind of thing. Well, I said, you said, I feel, you feel, and we're not really getting anywhere. But separating just a little bit to say, okay, right, I'm going to take what you're saying to me. I'm going to listen to this. I'm going to understand how this feels for me. Then we're going to take this to the next level. And then we can do it like almost like a ladder climbing up. But it's a very challenging place to be in, to listen and not want to take it personal, So, but beyond that there's loads of growth.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think commonly that is a very difficult one as far as, especially when we're charged. If there's something that's really got us in our feelings, got me upset, it's really tough for me to come to my wife from a listening place. And I know for myself, you're a man that's on a men's team. I know for me, being on a men's team has been incredibly helpful in those moments where whether it's on a team call or just giving one of my buddies a call and just being, just kind of airing it out a bit. It really helps me get from that charged place back to a place of listening and a place of being, I guess I would call it emotionally sober. Where in the past I would either pretend like there was no emotion there and then it would just lead to an outbreak at a certain point. Or I would just never be in the listening space because I would constantly be defending something. So yeah, having that third party, a good friend, being able to discharge a little bit and then step back into relationship and actually have a productive conversation has been one of the most valuable tools for me.
Yeah, Phil, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. Like you said, I've been I've been part of the men's circle consistently for nearly 4 years now. And it's been a lifeline, a lifesaver, because like you said, that's where I go and I spar emotionally sometimes with myself. I kind of hash out how the conversation went with my wife, what frustrates me, but never in a way to bash her or put blame. Because again, as you know, as soon as we try to put blame on our wives, our men will step up and say, hold on now, take that back in.
Wait a minute.
Back in now. Yeah, you can get off your chest. That's where it stops. But then we're going to take ownership of it. And it's this where I say it's like sparring with yourself in a lot of ways, and knowing that when you're surrounded by men who are going to hold you to a higher standard of yourself, is also growth in that as well. So you kind of have to go into it knowing that they're not going to they'll listen. All right, that's part of it. Just being to have that space to get it out. But the other part of it is, okay, so what are you going to do differently? How can you go back in the ring with your wife with a different set of ears, with a bigger heart, with an open heart, with more curiosity about what she's telling you, being able to grapple with your emotions in that ring with her, so I definitely agree. It saved my life more than 50 times now, like in the men's workspace, like having that support system for sure.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to switch gears here just a little bit because earlier you said a word, and I know it's an important word to you, and that's authenticity. So as I was telling you before we hit record, it's one of these words that I think the majority of men really resonate with. I'm sure many women do too, but there's something about being authentic that's just, I think it's equated to freedom in a way. And it's just really attractive to men. So it's also a word that gets used a lot. And I think there's a lot of assumptions about what it means. And because it's used so much, people are like, I ain't going to be the one that asks, what does authenticity mean? I want to be that dude. So I'm going to start with the question, what does authenticity mean to you? And why is it such a cornerstone value for you? Why is it so important for you?
Mm-hmm. Authenticity to me is giving yourself the ability and permission to be you, which means to feel everything. And what I mean by be you and feel everything, because I think it's easy to focus on being authentic, especially like when we're talking about personal development or men's space, we say, be authentic and show like the softer side, or show the emotional side, or show the messy side, right? Equally as important is being able to allow yourself to be authentic in your joy and in your bliss, because sometimes there's something about that feels like we haven't earned it. They're not worthy of it yet. Or if I do it, I'm boasting, I'm bragging, I'm arrogant. And I think being able to be authentic and I just feel good right now. I feel happy right now. I feel in love right now. I feel someone's love so much like in right now, like, and actually being able to be in that is part of authenticity. So I think it's being able to feel the full range of emotions and allow all of you to be expressed in each one of those emotions.
I love the distinction of bringing joy and bliss into that. I think when the words like authenticity and vulnerability come in, vulnerability always makes me think of like being, showing the sides of shame or hurt or embarrassment, things of that nature, where, and authenticity, for me, I often think of like standing in either in my power or conviction or my, my truth in that sense. But this element of joy and bliss is essential. And I think a lot of men, myself included, are really missing the mark on that one. And it's like, how often do we take the time to celebrate ourselves, right? Just be in joy. I guess, what do you think is difficult for men when it comes to being authentic, especially in the realm of joy and bliss?
Oh man, I think it's still compared to being soft. I think it's still compared to being like almost taking it easy, So if I'm celebrating myself, if I'm allowing myself to experience this, it's almost like I'm letting myself off the hook, right? Like, because a real authentic, real go-getter man, like, he never sleeps, right? Like, you listen to those motivational videos, and I'll be honest with you, I used to get drunk on the motivational speeches about, you have to keep on pushing. If you live your purpose, you wait until you pass out tired in your bed. And so that's not joy. That's not blissful. Like, I have time for joy and bliss when I'm pushing myself to the edge and I'm giving all I got. So, I think it's also that one-dimensional side of what it means to be a man on a mission and what it means to be a driven man or walking that red road. And so I think we still don't accept that part of authenticity, that's a very real part of us. And I think a real essential part of us that helps that path that we walk be more enjoyable, be more, something we look forward to, something we're willing to show, So, there's so much more we can take this, but I think in essence, I think that's the struggle for us, is being able to allow that to come in and not think it takes away from our drive or our mission that we're on.
Yeah, it really landed for me as far as, to be manly is to be a hustler, right? To be manly is to be working, constantly pursuing, constantly hunting. And at least that's the narrative, the cultural narrative. You're in a different culture now, but I'm sure it's pretty similar over in Spain too. But that cultural narrative of we should be constantly pursuing something. And I suppose it's like, if I am celebrating or I am blissful or I'm joyous, I'm probably not pursuing something at that moment. I'm probably standing still. And if you're standing still, you're dying. Guard down.
I'm not only am I dying, but when I'm standing still and celebrating, my competition is still going. They're not resting. Mm-hmm. So I've given them the leg up. It's like, who's my competition?
Yeah, right. It's funny. Who are they? That's like what always comes up into my head. And I know for myself, I have constantly been in the position that if I am joyful, that I'm going to get soft. I probably didn't say it in those exact words, but at least that's the story that I've held in my head for a long time and still comes up. It's like, if I start celebrating, I'm going to become complacent. And if I become complacent, I'm going to fall behind, and that's going to lead to all these bad things.
Mm-hmm. I definitely resonate with that a lot. And like you, that's something I'm still working on. And also one of my areas of curiosity right now of how can I let both things happen at the same time. It's not one or the other. It doesn't have to be that I'm committed to my vision of myself. I'm committed to living my vision and living out my purpose, or I'm allowing myself to be in joy and bliss. Those things can happen at the same exact time. And I think they actually should, but it's actually being able to allow things to take both space. So for example, I can be really driven as an initiated man after completing Compass, with you guys about a year ago. And at the same time, I can also leave room for, I'm pretty frustrated and have my head against the wall in my marriage at the same time. So just because my head's against the wall with my marriage right now doesn't mean that I'm any less committed to my mission of living a life as an initiated man, right? But sometimes we have those things where it's one or the other. We're overly critical about what our path looks like. And so if it's not always feels focused, we're grounded, we're aligned, we're centered, then something must be wrong. I need to go back to the drawing board. And that leaves very little space for that enjoyment, that bliss, that comfort, that celebration to say, you know what? Fuck, man, let me just take a look back just for a second. I know we don't want to look too much in the rear view mirror, but let's look back a little bit and say, I've come a long way. Like, this is really good stuff. I'm not there yet, but I've come a long way, And so I think giving that space and being curious about what can come up from that has been again, it's been a needle mover for me, because in that I've fallen more in love with myself. And that's a kind of different conversation, but it's been a key thing for me, is being able to allow that to come through, where it doesn't make me soft, doesn't make me weak. It doesn't make me any less valuable or any less committed to what I'm doing. It just means that this is also part of the experience. It's also part of what makes me. And as long as I'm trying to suppress that because I'm afraid of what people are going to think if I'm slowing down or if I'm not working, I'm never really going to be completely authentic. There's always going to be a piece of me missing. I'm always showing authenticity is not showing the driven side all the time. It's not showing the side that's always hustling, that's always getting shit done. No, authenticity is 360. It's the complete picture.
Yeah, I really like, I know you brought in a snippet of it. I'm sure we'll get back to it, but that the ability to love ourselves, I feel like that is true authenticity, or at least that's the outcome of it. Because if you can truly be yourself, then you can love yourself. If you can love yourself, then you can truly be yourself. And, you know, there's obviously authenticity is going to be specific to each person. Like, I imagine a dude like David Goggins, like, I don't think he's putting on a front. You know, I don't think he's trying to be hard because of some social narrative. I think, you know, I think for that man, and I don't know him, but, you know, just based on his presence, his being, like, I think for him, his authentic self is to push his body to the fucking limit and just be hard, stay hard. You know, I think that is his authentic way of being, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I think where it becomes problematic or inauthentic is like when I feel like I am less of a man, or I need to be doing more so I can be like David Goggins.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, it's interesting as you're saying that, because you're definitely right. Like there's a temptation I have to want to really analyze it. I also like David Goggins as well. He actually, thanks to him, his book, he inspired me to really get myself into another degree, right? Another layer there. So without speaking to him, I want to make some speculation and say that you're right. In his drive, I think that's very authentic. I think it's very real. I don't think he's putting that on to try to sell books or anything like that. Mm-hmm. And I don't follow him intently. However, what I would say is I'm just curious to know how often he is willing to celebrate himself. I remember in his book, he was saying like he constantly keeps himself in a state of discomfort, even though he has amassed a certain amount of money. I don't know how much that is, but he still lives, from him, you know, very bare bones, so he can still stay uncomfortable, keep himself on the edge, you know? So part of me wants to sit down and challenge and say, well, David, why is that? Why can't you just allow yourself to be good? Why can't you allow yourself to be comfortable? Like, take your ass to the spa sometime, like get your nails there, get a mani-pedi, you know what I mean? Like, yep. I listened to the book, you ran that ultra, your baby toe fell off, you know what I mean? Like, can you actually pamper yourself? Like, why are you avoiding that? Like, I want to challenge that. So I agree with you. That aspect of what we see, I think that is definitely an authentic, authentically him. I'm going to assume and say there's a piece of that puzzle that we're still not seeing though. But we'll never know.
I like that. I'm willing to have him on the podcast.
Right? David Goggins, where you at? Have
your people call his people. I know you know everyone. So,
yeah.
So I'm gonna circle back to something else you said about authenticity. You said being a good citizen prevents us from living authentically. I'm curious, what did you mean by that?
Man, it's so don't confuse this with being a good person. I intentionally use the word citizen because there's a lot that comes from societal expectations, and society can also include religion, church, government, school systems, and each one of those institutions that are a big part of our lives, especially when we are still under our parents' roofs, is always telling us what it looks like to be a good person, to be a good citizen. A good citizen doesn't make a lot of noise in public. They don't litter. They don't do all these things. And for the most part, I can't argue with the value system that's been put in place by all these institutions. However, it's unfortunately, I see a lot of people who don't allow themselves to play outside that box. What else does it mean to be a good citizen apart from those measures? Or just because that person says that this is what a good person looks like, what a good citizen looks like, what else is true for me? And so we get stuck in this. And not only do we get stuck in this, we keep measuring ourselves to that. And if I don't fit in that, then I no longer am a good person. So I'm not going to do that. And that suppresses part of us. Like there's something else that wants to come through beyond that box, like beyond that picture. Like, this, you have young kids, like, and be honest, Phil, how many times do you tell your kids, stay within the lines and the color? Or you let them crawl, like draw outside the lines. You know what I mean? Like when we don't allow ourselves to draw ourselves outside the lines, it's hard to be truly authentic. And I'm not going to say everyone needs to go outside of that framework. I'm not saying that. But I do feel that a lot of us limit ourselves what could be possibly just beyond that edge, right? Of not trying to listen or not trying to fit into this mold of what society says I need to look and be to be valued, to be a good person, to be considered a respectable member of society, my family, my culture, my religion. And although those value systems do serve a purpose, I think on a deeper level beyond that is we hold a lot of ourselves back, and which is where I think a lot of our roots of frustration, anxiety, and depression, and all that stuff comes from. But it could be a different conversation.
Really, really well said. Yeah, I think, I'm thinking of the different spaces, whether we call it, say, what's a good man mean to you? Or what is it to be a good father or a good person? I think one of the essential first steps is to establish or set your own standard, and that's really what I'm hearing from what you're saying when it comes to being a good citizen and authenticity, is that even if the values that are passed to us through religion or media, culture, even if those are things we are aligned with, it's like, how are we choosing these things? Are we choosing them because they have been pushed upon us, or because I've been told that this is what I need to be? Or am I actually choicefully picking them up and being like, these are the values, practices that I've accumulated through my life and have deemed the important ones for being a good citizen, and that's how I'm going to model my interpretation of what it is to be a good citizen in this life.
Yeah, 100%. I give two examples, one quicker than the other. And one is working with the client, a Spanish man who converted to Islam for his wife. Now, long story short, they found themselves wanting to separate. And, in work with him, he was having a really hard time negotiating the separation from his marriage and from the religion. Now, he's been a devout Muslim for the whole duration of this marriage, mainly for her. He converted because of her, but he was very devout to the practices in that. Now, in the separation, he was starting to feel a lot of rejection towards that, naturally so, because he connected the religion to his wife, thinking, fuck, I did this for you, and now we're not together, and I'm not this person for you, blah, 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 blah. So now he's rejecting that. And I said, well, look, you don't have to really reject the entire, religion, unless, of course, you just don't resonate with it. He's like, no, there's parts that do still serve me. I said, well, I know it's a challenge. I'm not going to say I can pretend what it's like to be a Muslim, but from what I understand, it's one of those religions that are quite strict on their practices and quite the value system that they have and what it means to follow the principles of Islam. I said, can you allow yourself to be a Muslim how you see fit? I mean, do you have to tick all the boxes for you? Because really, who in this world is going to tell you you're not being a good Muslim? Before, it was your wife. But apart from that, who is watching you, telling you that you aren't being a good Muslim because it doesn't look like this? He's like, yeah, you're right about that. Now, again, I'm not saying that's easy, especially when it comes from something so deeply ingrained and so deeply that's something that comes part of us, especially in our family and especially in our culture, depending on where you live. But being willing to go back to be curious about who you can be under that umbrella is where I think there's a lot more authenticity, because if he stayed there, pushed himself because I've committed to it and I'm going to do it 100%, even though something else in him says, something just doesn't feel right here. Like I get, like, let's just say 80% of this, like 80% of this like vibes with me, it aligns with me, but that 20%, like it's really like eating me alive when I try to force myself in that, but again, we get to decide that. Or we can say, I want to be part of this greater big community that is Islam. And so that I'm accepted into this, I'm willing to give up a part of me to fill the other 20% with this image that they're looking for. And I'm okay with that. That's also okay. I can't say what's right or wrong for anyone. However, I do believe there's a lot more flexibility in there than we give ourselves credit for.
Mm. Yeah. Who are the Muslim police? That's a really big one. But I mean, it's the same, whether it's like we're vegan, can I call myself vegan? Or it's like, can I say I'm a committed man? Whatever it is, it's this element of like, I think it's the source of shame for a lot of guys, or for a lot of people not being able to truly accept love from others. Cause it's like, well, if you really knew me, or if you knew this part of me that you don't see, then you would know that I couldn't really own that I'm a good person. Yeah, right. Yeah. And so, in this case, the Muslim police, it's kind of like, all right, well, where is the line where I can actually choose what I want to be? And be fully in alignment with all that and own that I am that, enter Muslim, good person, good man, committed man, whatever that may be. So I'm going to think about the Muslim police a lot as the day goes on today.
You said something that actually, I really feel called to share, and it's actually, it'll definitely be a stretch, but I feel called to share. You said something about, if you really knew me, we know we've done similar exercise like this in men's workspace before. Now there's something I shared in those spaces before that I finally, after about 16 years, like resolved with someone. And essentially, long story short is, about 16 years ago, I touched a female friend inappropriately while she was passed out in my car. Right. And we've maintained our friendship until now. I've seen her grow. I still go back with my wife and we see her. I've seen her, with her daughter. I've seen her, and our connection gets stronger as we go along. However, since that happened, now, even though that happened 16 years ago, we've been friends for over 20 years, all right, since high school. That part of me that did that 16 years ago has always been with me. And going back to that value system of what is a good person, what is a good citizen, I never allowed myself to be a good man. I never really fully accepted I was a good man, a respectable person, because I did that. And I hung that over my head for over a decade, nearly 2 decades. Because I couldn't give myself that room of, I did something that didn't fit in this umbrella, and something that's something that happened as a one-time kind of thing, and who I am as a person. And so I think going back now after looking at all that stuff, I got complete with myself on that. I was like, okay, it happened, it took a long time. Actually, I think probably only in the last maybe 2 years or less that I started to really feel okay with it, that it's something that happened that's not me. But the part that didn't feel okay with it is that she didn't know, and that we were still friends. And then when she speaks highly of me, when she speaks highly of me to other people, it was like a dagger to my heart. It's like, but if you only knew, like if you really knew. And so a couple months ago, I shared that with her, and that was hard. Oof, it was hard. There's a lot of fear that came around, like what's going to happen? Is she going to be pissed? Is she going to report me to the police? Is she going to reject me? Is she all these different things, And long story short, the conversation went as well as it could. She was definitely surprised. She didn't expect it. But she was appreciative that I shared that with her. Now, for me, why did I need to do that? Because that secret was with me. No one knew. It was just me and her in the car. No one knew about that. And no one ever had to know. But within my fiber of my being, there's something about me being in her presence and her not knowing that, and her not being able to make a choice, is if she still wanted to be around me, still wanted to have a friendship with me, wasn't complete, even though I was complete with myself. So once I got past that allowed more things to open up to actually set me free in that, And so it's very interesting, like you said, that piece about if you really knew me. And so we choose that. We choose to hold on to that, and we have choice. We can confront it like I did. It took me 16 years to confront that, or we can literally let it die off and just say, oh, something happened in the past that's not me anymore, and keep going forward. Or we can do like I did for 16 years and hold on to it and tell ourselves a story that's not true about who I really am.
Yeah, man. Well, one, I want to thank you for sharing that story, because, whether it's touching someone inappropriately, stealing, lying, whatever it is, I think all of us are holding something that no one else knows, and we don't want anyone else to know. But being that we're shouldering that ourselves, it brings into question our virtue, our goodness. So I think it's a very relatable story. And so you said it was hard talking to her. And I guess, you shared a little bit about what was difficult, but for you, I guess was the hardest part actually bringing it out? Was it fear of the outcome? And then what was really like the tipping point of like, you know what? I have to share this, right? Because you held it to the cuff for like 16 years. And yeah. I'm sure there was multiple times where you kind of felt that dagger where she was talking about you, but there was still a point where it's like, it was the tipping point where it's like, you know what, I'm going to do this. So what was that transition for you?
Yeah. Well, so, there's a lot of, to be honest with you, there was fear of the outcome, but there wasn't, because I do this a lot. I play worst case scenarios, right? Like I said, okay, worst case scenario, she freaking reports me because somehow there's no statute of limitation. She can report me, and then I'm going to now be part of this category, this database of like, I don't know, abusers. I don't know what to be titled, right? Mm-hmm. But actually, I was okay with that. I was like, you know what? Hey, it happened. I did it. I'm going to own it. I'm going to take responsibility for that. What I was really afraid of, and this is actually quite selfish, was I had finally gotten to a point where I was able to accept what I've done, and I'm not that person. I got to a point where this self-love and be able to love myself, accept myself, and not hold my identity, my authenticity hostage because of what I did in the past. I was afraid of, what if she did scream at me? What if she called me a horrible person? What if she called me a rapist? What if she called me a molester? What if she called me all these things? Would that send me back to that limited mindset that I carried for 16 years or more? Would that send me back to ground zero? Would I be able to really hold my ground and let her be with every emotion that she deserves to express? Because I'm no one to say that she could and should. No, she deserves to express anything she wants. Can I be with her emotion and still maintain the truth about myself? That was really, to be honest with you, the scariest part. What came to the front? Why to boil up? Well, I think it's been coming to going back to curiosity of what it means to really be authentic. And although authenticity in this particular case, I have a really good idea of who I am. I don't know everything who I am. There's still parts of me I don't know yet, right? But something just didn't feel right. And I can't explain exactly what that was, but something didn't feel right around that we still have a friendship, and a good friendship. Not just like we talk every now and again, like we have a good friendship. We make it a point to see her when we go back home. That didn't feel right, that she did not know. And it just felt, it felt as if she had to have the option to do that. Now again, and I think the other part of that is because I think that was also holding a piece of me hostage still. Even though I felt good here, if like she doesn't know, like if we didn't speak, if we like, for example, if we never spoke like for the past, 10 or 16 years, I probably would feel very less inclined to have that conversation. Like, okay, look, it happened, and it's nothing I can do about it now, kind of thing. But it's the fact that we do see each other. She does want me to play an active role in her daughter's life. She does want me to be an active role in her family, everything that happens, and vice versa. And so it just got to the point where it's like, I don't want to withhold that from her. She needs to be able to make the choice for herself. So I think that was the main thing. It sounds a bit vague, but that's the best way I could put it.
No, I think the word that comes up to me is honor. I don't think that's vague at all. I think it's doing the right thing, even when you could probably get away with not doing the right thing. And in this case, there's a relationship involved. There's community involved. It really sounds like, and having the ability to do the uncomfortable thing, even after years, and just do the honorable thing is, I think it's one of the most valuable things that we can do. And, for every man out there, every person out there, we're going to do shit we're not proud of. There's going to be a time where we get to that point in the road in our journey of life where we're going to make not the best decision, right? Because we're all human. We're all, we all have our moments of just being a dumbass and just doing stuff that in the next, day, week, months, years, we're going to look back and be like, shit, if I could go back, I would do that differently. Right. So we're never going to be able to go back into time and do it differently. However, there are ways that we can either remedy or get back into honor or learn from these situations. And I think making the most of those things is what it is to be a good citizen. Kind of going back to that, like being a good citizen isn't always being right. It isn't batting 1,000, right? It's being as conscious about what we're doing as possible. And when we have our shortcomings, when we make our mistakes, when we do things that we're not proud of, we take the necessary actions in order to correct them or in order to make them right again.
Yeah. And Phil, just to kind of actually said something that came to me. And I think to put the bow on this is whatever her reaction was going to be, that was going to allow me to be okay because it was hers. It was her choice. Right. So there was two extremes of the spectrum. Like she's going to report me to the police and things aren't going to change. Right. Mm-hmm. As of right now, things haven't changed. Right. As of right now. And I also let her know that if anything does change, that if you simmer with this and a week from now, a month from now, 5 years from now, you feel a certain kind of way, like we'll have that conversation, not a problem. But at least it's her choice. And so it's not for me to take. And so just by allowing that part to take, that added a layer of freedom for me, because we talked about this before. I think we actually started recording, is authenticity is freedom. And for me, there's freedom in that. If her reaction was, Brian, fuck you, I hate you, you're a scum. Yeah, I can see definitely how you get that. I got that. But at least now I'm not holding on to that. That's not for me to hold on to. And there's a certain level of freedom that came with actually just letting it out there. So, yeah.
Man, I really love that story. I'm really, really grateful that you shared it on here. So there's one more element of authenticity that I want to talk about. And it's probably because it's a little personal to me, but this is my damn show, so I'm going to talk about it. So, the one thing that always comes up for me when I hear being authentic is the nice guy or people pleaser complex. Now, this is something that I've definitely had a history with, and I know a lot of men do. Curious if you've ever had that. You're such a jerk. I would have never guessed it. Yeah, man. So, I guess there's not really a question here, but would love to rap about it because, again, I know this is the case for a lot of men. But I have definitely found in my history that if I am being a people pleaser, then I am more committed to making other people feel comfortable than I am to being my true self. Now, is that similar story for you in the past?
Yeah, definitely more so in the past, and there's still some residue in the present for sure. But I mean, going back, I mean everything is connected. So talking about people pleasing and really not being really authentic, let's go back to the situation with this friend. Obviously there's attraction I had for her that I wasn't honest with. For whatever reason, I wasn't honest with that. I didn't let that come to the surface. And so even though I never let that out, there's still a part of me that I was carrying that with me. And so when opportunity presented itself, I acted on that, right? So that's how one way how that can show up, that people pleasing side. Another side of this is just overall, like in confrontation, like in relationships, everything from coworkers to expressing your ideas. I remember being, in a fraternity also in college as well. And so when things would come up between the brothers and kind of shutting your mouth, even though there's something you want to see differently, you want to chime in on, but you don't want to rock the boat, or you don't want the meeting to go another hour long. So you just kind of like go along with it. And I guess there's a time and place for everything. But at the end of the day, there's parts of me, lots of me that I was thinking like, damn, like regardless of what the outcome could have been, why didn't I just say the thing? Why didn't I just do the thing? Because why? Going back to wanting to be a good citizen, the good citizen in my fraternity, in my family, in the job of, I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to be the complicated guy, the difficult guy. I don't want to be the guy that always plays the devil's advocate, So let me just kind of go along with it. And that was actually, it worked very well for me. And it was easy to be the nice guy and people pleaser because it was highly rewarded because people like me. I was easy going. I always kept things easy, even, that I don't know if you're in the space, but Jeddy called me out one time, I think very in the beginning of getting into Rising Man. And he mentioned, talk that smile. You're always smiling. And that was my nice guy, like default, like everything's good. Nothing to see here. Yeah. Feel great. Oh, do I agree with that? Yes. Yeah, that plan's perfect. Even though like in my mind, that plan sucks, but I don't want to tell you it sucks because I don't want to hurt your feelings. I don't want to tell you it sucks because you may cause some conflict. You know what I mean? And look, there's a time and a place to be diplomatic. However, I think in my case, I made it a default. I made it a lifestyle, and one, it wasn't serving to myself. That wasn't authenticity coming through. That's me just kind of again showing a mask. And two, it wasn't allowing more curiosity, creativity come up. Because had I just said what I felt in whatever the situation may be, something else magical could have been created. However, I was so focused on the possible negative outcome. We might get pissed off. We might argue. We might fight. We may stop being coworkers or friends. They may fire me, whatever it may be. I kept my mouth shut. That was the predictable side. That's the side of like wanting to make sure things go okay. So yeah, definitely it's been a very rich part of my past, and it's definitely a how do you say, like I even say like a third. Like a third, like weird arm that grows like at the side of my hip, I don't know where that came from. I was trying to say something different.
Bro, I love that element of like, so we sell out curiosity and creativity when we choose to people please or be the nice guy. And I can totally relate to that. I think for so long I was committed to making other people feel comfortable, being agreeable, being, oh man, Phil is he's so chill. He's so cool. He's so like smooth, whatever, just like never, nothing ever like knocks him off his center. Like I prided myself in so much that like I would literally walk into a room and just pay attention to what everybody else is doing and figure out how I can be most agreeable, go with the flow sort of thing, to the point where it's like I was so disconnected from what made me happy, what was actual, like, who was I, what did I want, was like the most existential question that there was. And, curiosity and creativity were just totally thrown out the window. And it's been a process. And I guess I still have that third arm growing off my hip too, in the sense that there's a there's a reaction, or there's still I guess it's a deeply dug rut or groove that it's really easy for me to fall back into. And I just really have to pay attention to asking myself the question, what do I want in this moment, as opposed to how can I make this person happy or feel good in this moment?
Yeah. I want to kind of put in a different, not a different context, but like another context. And that is, that diplomatic role, that ability to keep the calm in a tense situation is very valuable, right? Like if we allowed every single person to be very emotional and to kind of get lost in everything that's happening, it becomes very combative. It can be very, toxic. It can be very destructive. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? However, I think if we're not aware of the role we're playing of the diplomat, for example, or because I want to separate that from the people please. I think those are very two different things. The diplomat can keep the momentum going forward. He can be able to pull in an argument from both sides and find that happy medium without losing themselves. However, what most of us do, myself included, is I lost myself in that. I was being whoever I thought they needed to be to keep the peace, rather than saying, hey, I hear that, I hear this, and I'm going to add my input into this. How can we, take these three threads here to make a common thread? So that way I still feel like they're knowing what my opinion is, right? So they still know where I stand. Most often than not, I didn't do that, especially when it came from a work environment. Again, I was very good at being able to kind of be the bridge there. But in that bridge, like you said, I lost myself as well. I didn't know who the hell I was. What do I really think about this? Or I kept suppressing that so much, I never gave other people the opportunity to understand what I agreed with or what my thought process was, right? And so in that, it's not really I'm not being authentic. People don't really authentically know who I am. They're agreeing with the version of me that I'm showing them because, it's nicer that way. And at the same time, I'm not helping to facilitate a more stronger outcome or a more creative outcome or a more inclusive outcome, but it's definitely that getting lost in that phase, there's a place for that to be diplomatic, and there's also a place for that to not get lost in that.
Yeah, I really like that. By shedding the nice guy or the people pleaser attitude, doesn't mean that you're constantly looking for conflict. And I think you just described that so well. And I know for myself, when I was first diagnosed with being a people pleaser, at least made aware of it, the idea of not being that was like, I don't want to like constantly be in conflict, constantly be arguing, constantly being the one that's like pointing out all the things. However, it doesn't mean that you have to be that. It doesn't mean that not being a people pleaser doesn't mean one who is constantly looking for conflict. I think you can still be one that's looking for how to thread the needles together, how to bring everyone together, especially if that's a value of yours. And you're not doing that at the expense of your core personal values, your virtues, the things that make you you. Because once you start to sell that out, then it's like, who cares if you're getting along? You're just, at the end of the day, when you go back home, you're going to be like, oh, I didn't say the thing about this. Oh, that person made me or someone else feel horrible and I didn't stand up for it. Oh, they stand for A, B, and C, and that's totally not what I agree with. And I said yes anyway. Like, you got to live with that when you go home. And I have been there many a nights, and that shit does not feel good.
No, not at all. Not at all. Especially when you see the way things evolve, like develop and progress, you think, what if I would have just added that element to it? What if I would have added this other different perspective? But I love the way things come full circle. And this to me now connects to what we were saying in the beginning of this is, what is authenticity? And we say, a lot of particularly men struggle with authenticity is, I want to keep it real. I'm going to keep it 100. So I'm just going to say what I want to say. It's like, well, it's not always being a jackass. It's not always being, like the person's going to keep it real and just be a dick all the time. You're like, okay, it can be dickish, but, so it's again, being able to allow two or more things to take up space at the same time. It's not always going to be 50-50, 33-33, 25-25. It's going to take up different kinds of space, different percentages. And so just like being authentic and allowing for the joy and the bliss to come in, to let the hustle and drive come in, to let the love and relax come in the same way being a people pleaser, cool. We can be diplomatic. We can be agreeable to keep it going forward, and we can add our element to it as well. So I think it kind of goes back to, again, the beginning of, it doesn't have to be one or the other. It can be various things at one time, but sometimes it's a struggle. At least for me, it's still a struggle to allow those things to occupy the same place at the same time. Sounds like a Wyclef, like a Fugees lyric.
I'm pretty sure that is left line. Yo, bro. Well, I can. The one other thing, and it's pretty much saying something similar, is that being authentic doesn't mean being right, or doesn't mean getting your way. And I have a really good example of this. I think like 2 days ago, my wife and I were problem solving something, and we were trying to figure out what we were going to do. And she expressed what she wanted to do, and I really didn't want to do that. However, it wasn't about me getting my way. It was more expressing that I didn't want to do that, and then coming to the agreement that we were going to do what she wanted to do. And in the past, what I would have done is the people pleaser would have just said, yes, okay, fine, let's do that. I wouldn't have said anything. And then I would have been salty the rest of the day. I would have been passive aggressive, just like saying different things here and there. Where in this case, like the authentic wasn't getting my way. It was just saying, you know what, I don't really want to do that. And if that's really what you want to do, or, you see that being the best solution right now, I'm willing to do it. Let's do it.
Yes.
So it's just like that has been a huge shift for me in the sense that I don't have to always get my way and I can always express how I feel.
Yeah, Senor Gomez. This is why I call you the GOAT, man, the greatest of all time. Like this is that's a power move. And again, being able to let that exist. Like you can share that, I don't like that, or I don't agree with that, and still go along with it. Doesn't make you a sellout. It doesn't make you a people pleaser. It's just saying, hey, like I don't have to dig my heels in and say, because I don't want to do this, we're not going to do this. No, like, especially in marriage, like there's things that have to be give and take, like express that so the person knows. So let the person know you're still willing to go along with it for these reasons, and then go along with it, right? It's not this idea that I'm selling myself out or not being authentic if I go along with it. Like it's not going to be very, very practical. But I think that's a huge takeaway and lesson for marriage life and just life in general,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Oh man, well, let's bring this thing up to a close, Brian. I'm really, really grateful for this conversation. So before we close out, just what's one or two or three sentences you would give to a man that's out there that's really working on becoming more authentic?
Man, love yourself enough and be bold enough to see what's possible for you. Just keep it simple. Love yourself enough and be bold enough to be you.
Bam. I love that. Simple, powerful, impactful. Right on. Well, lastly, let the people know how they can work with you, how they can stay in contact with you, follow you, all that good stuff. If you got anything going on, share with the folks that are listening.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for that. So the easiest space would be going to the Instagram. Instagram handle is Brian Christian Jenkins. That's Brian with an I. The only way to spell Brian Christian Jenkins on Instagram. Actually, the website as well, brianchristianjenkins.com. And as of now, what's going to come up in July is the next version of a program that I call Naked Truth. And essentially what Naked Truth is actually getting down to the bare bones of us outside of the distractions, outside of the clothes, outside of all these things that we think it makes us us. So it's getting down to the nakedness of us. You don't have to get naked. But what we do in this 4-week program is become very aware of what is true about ourselves, our body image, what cues we're taking from society, from home, from church, everywhere else that tells us who we are. That's really not the true us, and getting down to the bare bones. And so I'm excited about this one because this is definitely new territory for me in regards of how this is going to unfold. Most of my programs have been very, not practical, very linear. Do you know what I mean? This is going to be the steps we're going to follow, and this is going to be the outcome. And there are steps that we're going to follow on a weekly basis, but it's definitely much more open for space. It's giving people the opportunity to really make up their own mind about who they are and explore that. And so we do have some exercises that we do and some practice that we do to help facilitate that, which some people will find uncomfortable. But again, on the other side of that discomfort is the true and authentic you. So that's the Naked Truth coming up in July. Haven't nailed down a date yet officially, but if you keep abreast to the Instagram page, you'll see that date come up soon.
Boom. Naked Truth. There you have it. That sounds amazing, Brian. Awesome, brother. Well, I'm really, really grateful for this conversation. It's always good to chop it up with you, bro. And hopefully I'll see you in Spain sometime. I'm trying to visit you out there, bro.
Look, don't be saying things that you're not going to do. Don't toy with my emotions. If I don't see you and the whole Gomez clan here in the next year and a half, man, we're going to have some problems,